Today we're going to the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Come with us as we see some of the biggest and most amazing machinery that I've ever seen in my life. It's impossible not to be inspired and completely in awe by this place. Let's go check it out.
Our leadership in science and industry, our hope for peace and security.
Let's do the bus ride first.
Yeah, because I think they only do that until 2:30.
Yeah,
Do that.
we gotta go around here. They have a Starbucks here.
Is the bus tour 2 hours?
No.
If it is, we better get a Starbucks.
You want to get a Starbucks?
Sarah, if you guys do. You want a drink?
We got our drink. Now we can go.
Mission sequence start. And they'll step off the left.
70,000.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We have pondered our place amongst the stars since the dawn of humankind. We've looked at the stars with wonder and amazement, their glow guiding our travel for centuries. The more we learn about our universe, the more questions we have.
I'm Emily Calandrelli, and today you'll be following me behind the gates on this exclusive bus tour of Kennedy Space Center. Our journey will take us past active facilities and end at the visitor complex's own Apollo Saturn V Center.
But before we begin this journey, just like every NASA mission, our number one goal is to return home safely. So always stay seated while the bus is in motion. Please, no food or drinks on the bus with the exception of water. Please keep conversation to a minimum so others may hear and enjoy the tour. No photography is permitted at the security gates, but there will be plenty of photo opportunities during the tour.
This rocket right down here, the very tippity top, the red section is the launch abort system. The blue section at the bottom, you're not going to believe your eyes. It's the launch pad.
This rocket that you'll see standing tall in front of KSC's badging station is the Mercury Redstone rocket. It represents NASA's earliest efforts to send humans into space. These Redstone rockets were formerly ballistic missiles provided to NASA by the U.S. Army. In October of 1958, NASA formally organized Project Mercury with a mission to investigate man's reaction to this new environment and safely recover the capsule and its pilot. Man rating for human spaceflight on what was previously a ballistic missile was no easy task. After several modifications and test flights, a Mercury capsule carrying Ham, a chimpanzee, was successfully launched and recovered on January 31st, 1961.
Oh, there was one.
Just
Did you see
months
it?
later, on May
there's
5th,
two gators
astronaut
down
Alan
there.
Shepard launched on a Mercury Redstone rocket, becoming the first American in
Dude, we're
space.
halfway in the water.
Hi, I'm Janet Petro, and welcome to NASA's John F. Kennedy Space Center, where NASA astronauts have ventured forth on flights of exploration since the 1960s. And what an exciting time to visit our multi-user spaceport. Through our Commercial Crew program, we are sending astronauts to the International Space Station from American soil for the first time since the Space Shuttle program ended in 2011. We're continuing to launch new research experiments and supplies to the space station with our commercial resupply services and launching the most technologically advanced scientific instruments to date into space through our launch services program. This all culminates in our ultimate mission, the Artemis program, where NASA will return to the moon, this time with the first woman and first person of color, and continue on to Mars. In all our history, there's been one common theme woven throughout our DNA. It's our insatiable desire to explore beyond our home planet in our never-ending quest to expand our knowledge of the universe. As you venture behind the gates, you'll find a community of the most talented, dedicated, motivated workforce anywhere in the world who believe in the unlimited potential of space exploration. This is an active spaceport where new things are happening every day. You never know what you might see, so enjoy your tour.
Alrighty, I will be making a left-hand turn here. As soon as I do, the very first thing you're going to see is the vehicle assembly building. But what I want you to know is that it's still 5 miles away. Up here on the left-hand side, I'll go like this. That's going to be Hangar X for SpaceX. That's where they refurbish those Falcon 9 booster rockets. Take a peek down that driveway. We never know what they're pulling in or out of that building.
You did?
You are now approaching the Vehicle Assembly Building, or as NASA calls it, the VAB. It is one of the largest buildings in the world by volume, and is the place where NASA completes the final assembly of its rockets before launch. The sheer scale of this building is hard to grasp, even when you're right next to it.
NASA expects the crawlers to be in operation for at least another 3 decades. How cool is that? The latest refurbishment is complete and preparation is well underway for the first SLS mission. The crawler will be doing what it was originally designed to do once again, which is moving rockets.
Alrighty, so that large NASA logo up there is the largest painted NASA logo in the world. They call it the NASA meatball. The word NASA going through the logo is actually represented by a 2-story building. Just like they told you that flag represents 21 stories, it really does. If this building were not one of the largest 1-story buildings in the world, it would actually be 52 stories tall, but that's a whole nother story. The building itself is 525 feet tall. It does sit on a whopping 8 acres, and that is just inside the building. Now, way off there in the distance, a short black structure, white lightning tower, that's launch pad 39A. And I tell you that because right out here in front of the VAB, there's 3 items. You cannot see the third one from here right now until after I make the turn and pass that bus. But it's the launch abort system. Remember that little red section on that Mercury rocket? This is the launch abort system for our brand new SLS, or Space Launch Systems rocket. That thing with the bars and the white thing, that's actually the crew access arm left over from Launch Pad 39A during the Space Shuttle days. There were 82 Space Shuttle launches from that launch pad, and every single one of those astronauts walked across that crew access arm to get into the Space Shuttle. Attached to it is the White Room. That's where they shove those astronauts into That's where they assist the astronauts into the vehicle, get them all buckled up and ready to go for launch. The tank was used during the Space Shuttle days to evacuate the astronauts from the launch pad in the event of an emergency. Now that thing coming off of the VAB right over there, that's actually a 4-story building. That's where the magic happens. It's the LCC, the Launch Control Center. That's the building that you see in the movies and the news with all the windows out front for the firing rooms. The windows are still there. We just can't go around that way right now due to construction. Directly in front of us is that Boeing CST-100 Starliner built by Boeing right there in that building. Now that building and these other 2 buildings with the blue ring around the top, formerly the OPF, Orbiting Processing Facilities, left over from the Space Shuttle days. Now I don't know about you guys, but I feel like we've just come down acronym alley and initial lane. NASA itself is an acronym, and they believe that everything should have an acronym or initials to make it easier. I say ha. But I did tell you about the SLS, the LCC, the VAB, and the OPF. Well, today, you're riding on a BUS. Yeah. With KIMI, because we can have a little bit of fun in all that space out here. Anyhow, back to business. They said these large gray doors on the buildings are the largest doors in the world. They did not lie. Those doors measure 456 feet tall. They take 45 minutes to fully open or close, and they can move independently of each other. Little gator down in there. As they show in configuration today.
Yep.
Now, you guys just got an extra tour because I was not supposed to go around this way, but it's okay. No worries. Those doors, they told you they're the largest in the world. They measure 456 feet tall. They take 45 minutes to fully open or close, and they can move independently of each other. As you see in configuration today, I don't know if I already told you that or not.
It must
This
be.
is high bays 2 and 4, 1 and 3 are on the back side. They do have the vehicle assembly building open on 1 and 2 here, so you're going to be able to see directly through the building. Not really a whole bunch in there, but scaffolding, except for in high bay 3. In high bay 3, they've moved everything in there for this next Artemis mission. Now, back there is the construction. That is a new tower for Artemis 3. They're building a tower and mobile launcher. Tucked back in here in the corner right behind this little white building, that is crawler transporter number 1. This white building right here, that gets in my way every day. Here comes crawler transporter number 2. It's been reconfigured to carry the heavy weight of the new SLS, or Space Launch Systems rocket. And then that's a mobile launcher left over from the Space Shuttle days. I have a big gator hanging out down in here. There, he's on the move right there. All right, he's crawling. Anyhow, we're going out there to the Apollo Saturn V Center, and I have one more video for you. So, here we go.
There's a gator. Did you see him? There he is.
Oh, there's a big one.
But why, some say, the moon?
See him?
Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Right over there, you see the 3 iconic lightning towers of Launch Pad 39B. That's where the first SLS, or Space Launch Systems rocket, took off November the 16th of 2022, carried the first Artemis mission into space. Come on back. 2026, April, we're doing it again. Artemis 2 will have astronauts on board for that mission. The seating area out here is called the Banana Creek Launch Viewing Area. You too can purchase a launch package. Follow KennedySpaceCenter.com to find out how to get a seat in those bleachers. Sometimes they're first come, first serve, and you can come sit out here for just the cost of your day pass if you're following KennedySpaceCenter.com and you know which days to be here. So check that out. Right out here you have the Apollo 11 astronauts. They're in the Moon Tree Garden. They call this the Moon Tree Garden because each one of those trees were seated on the moon, and each one of those podiums will provide you information regarding each of the Apollo missions. This one right up here by itself will tell you about the moon trees. But today, you're going to start your journey right here at these big metal doors with a red frame wrapped around it. Stay and explore as long as you like. When you're ready to return back to the visitor complex, you'll exit through the gift shop. That's right, we're going to exit you through the gift shop just like every other theme park in Florida. I think it's become a law.
When I was a kid, I used to dream about flying through space. Every week on TV, I'd watch my heroes as they jumped into their rocket ships and took to the stars. And I wanted to be like them. They had courage, imagination, and no problem ever stood in their way for long. You know, in the end, when we actually did send men into space, it turned out that those were exactly the qualities it took. I'm John Hudson. This is Pad 39 of the Kennedy Space Center. I was a launch controller here when from this very spot, man took off to fly to the moon. It was a journey that began 12 years before that rocket ever left the ground. And it started on the other side of the world. Back then, we were one of 2 superpowers that always seemed to be on the edge of a terrible war. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever man-made satellite into Earth orbit. They called it Sputnik, which means traveling companion. And in a world where peace hung in a delicate balance, it seemed to create a dangerous advantage. Every ham radio operator in America could hear it beeping. People were afraid. Were the Soviets looking down on us? Watching us? If they could make a satellite pass over our cities, could they do the same with a bomb? Our own space program kicked into high gear, and less than 2 months later, we were ready to launch our own satellite. It was being called the space race, and we were running a distant second. In 1961, we fell even further behind. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man into space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. But our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space hero. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young president. In one inspiring moment, he changed the mission from one based in fear of the present to one of hope for the future.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We hadn't been more than 16 minutes into space, and now we were going to the moon. We would have to design a rocket the size of a 36-story office building, put it together with the precision of a microscope, and accelerate it to the speed of a bullet. Then we would have to guide it to a moving target 250,000 miles away. Many people thought it was an impossible dream, but 400,000 of us set about making that dream a reality. It would be the longest, most hazardous voyage that any man had dared to attempt. But step by step, mission by mission, we orbited the Earth, perfecting the skills and technologies we would need on this incredible journey. Our astronauts practiced maneuvering, docking, and the 1,000 other tasks that would comprise the moon mission. We created new alloys, lighter and stronger than anything seen before. We designed communication systems that would be reliable over the vast distances. And behind it all, we tried to perfect the rocket that would be powerful enough to punch out of Earth orbit and take us to the moon. One day, however, the dream of flying to the moon almost slipped away. It was January 27th, 1967. Astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were on board Apollo 1 for a plugs-out test, a full-scale dress rehearsal for the actual launch. Suddenly it happened. There was a fire in the capsule. 3 men whose lives had been in our hands were lost.
Surely the opening vistas of space promise high costs and hardships, as well as high reward. But this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them.
After Apollo 1, some thought we'd failed, and that the moon was out of our reach. But we owed it to those men to learn from their sacrifice and to carry on. We started taking the Apollo vehicle apart, piece by piece. Was the design flawed? Had safety been compromised? Tough questions. And we spent 1.5 years redesigning the spacecraft so that no astronaut's life would ever be at risk because we overlooked something, or because we could have done something better. A moon rocket is 91% high explosive, and it goes into the most unforgiving, hazardous environment there is. We could never make it risk-free, and the men who flew them knew that. We didn't send men into space again until Apollo 7 orbited the Earth testing some of the new design. When everything worked perfectly, the decision was made. The next mission would travel to the moon. It was mankind's destiny to leave the shores of our planet behind and strike out across the vast ocean of space. In the great span of our history, now was the time that we could. Now was the time that we would. We stood on the eve of the longest, most dangerous journey that any man had ever undertaken. And it would be taken by Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders, the crew of Apollo 8. Through those doors you'll find the firing room, launch control, just as it was on December 21st, 1968.
Please gather all of your belongings, take small children by the hand, and proceed through the open doors to firing room number 1. All strollers, wheelchair guests, and hearing impaired guests, please use the door to your far left.
At this hour, here at Cape Kennedy, they still plan to go ahead with it, to send 3 men to the moon and back. I'll repeat that, to send 3 men to the moon and back.
At this moment, nothing appears to stand between Apollo 8 and the moon except the sky.
This is the firing room, launch control for the Apollo missions. This is not a mock-up. These are the very consoles we sat at when men first took off to fly to the moon. The tragedy of Apollo 1 had put us 1.5 years behind. We were making up for it in one big leap, and we were doing it with a rocket that no man had ever flown before. It was a few days before Christmas 1968 when Apollo 8 sat on the pad. She was the first of a new kind, a moon rocket. This was the Phoenix, risen from the ashes of Apollo 1. The first Apollo crew did not die in vain. This was to be their testament. "36 stories high, she had been fully fueled throughout the night. The liquid oxygen in her tanks caused ice to form on the outside of the craft. The extreme temperature differences between the air and the sub-zero fuel caused the metal skin of the rocket to expand and contract. Everyone who was on the pad agreed. It was as though the rocket was alive, breathing, straining at the leash. Earlier in the morning, astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders had made their final preparations before taking that long ride out to the waiting spacecraft. The minimum safe distance from a Saturn V at liftoff was 3 miles. The reason was simple. When fully fueled, the rocket contained the explosive power of an atomic bomb. As the clock counted down, the astronauts and all of us in launch control went through the pre-flight checks. Our hands on the controls of the most powerful, most complex machine ever built. It had over 2 million separate systems, and to bring these men back alive, everything had to work perfectly. Each individual system had been tested, but what we didn't know was how they would perform when all 2 million began to work together. That moment would come when the countdown clock reached 0. If a maneuvering thruster failed, if communications broke down, if navigation was off by 1 degree, if any piece of the miles of wiring, circuits, relays, or valves was defective, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders would pay with their lives. As they sat, waiting for launch on that chill December morning, these 3 astronauts were back to what they had always been, test pilots. You are now in the final minutes before the launch of Apollo 8, right here where it actually happened. Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another. It is one of those rare moments when history is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
This is launch control, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. We've completed our communications checks with the Apollo 8 astronauts in the cabin, and the communications are go. During this period, once we do get the firing command, the various tanks within the 3 stages of the Saturn V launch vehicle begin to pressurize. We have firing command. The firing command is in. We are now on the automatic sequence. T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting. Our status board indicates that all aspects are ready. Instrument unit is ready, spacecraft ready, final check of the emergency detection system, that ready light also on. First stage preparations are completed.
All systems are ready, okay.
We're on. Ready to go to cockpit.
Stand by, Walter. Okay, you're on.
All systems go.
1 minute, 45 seconds and counting. The first stage liquid oxygen tank has been pressurized, and the pressure is still building up. Coming up in 90 seconds, mark, T-minus 90 seconds and counting. The Apollo 8 crew standing by, spacecraft commander Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, Bill Anders. We now report that the liquid hydrogen tank on the 3rd stage is pressurized. 1 minute, 15 seconds. All 3 maiden stage propellants pressurized at this time as we come up on a 60-second mark on a flight to the moon. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. The vehicle now is completely pressurized. We're coming up on a power transfer shortly. We have the power transfer. We're now on the flight batteries within the launch vehicle. Final reports coming from Frank Borman at this time. Final look at the switch list aboard the spacecraft. 20 seconds, all aspects. We are still go at this time. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. The ignition sequence start. The engines are on. 4, 3,
Apollo 8 successfully orbited the moon, and the astronauts returned safely to the Earth. I know. I'm Jim Lovell, and I was one of the crew of this spacecraft, Apollo 8. We were the first men to see the surface of the moon from just a few miles away. But it was the hundreds of thousands of men and women who worked in that team, and the millions of people who supported the mission that really made it possible. That way, I guess, we all went to the moon. Now, on the other side of those doors, you'll find an actual Saturn V moon rocket. It's still the most powerful, the most complex machine ever built. And I guess it's the only one that can take you to another planet. I actually got to fly one on a second flight to the moon called Apollo 13. But that's another story.
We're looking at the rocket.
Over here.
pizza? Oh, that's not pizza. It's Dippin' Dots. Looks like a pizza up there. Yeah, this is real cool.
Now in this section right in here, between stages 1 and 2, we had something called an interstage ring. And the interstage ring, that was basically a spacer, and it kept the rocket aerodynamic. It also protected the stage 2 engine. We had another interstage ring between stages 2 and 3. So a few minutes ago, we watched the rocket launch, and it was coming through the clouds. We saw it big right here.
That's the moon doggy.
Some assembly required.
Yeah, it might be in like the
Advanced as we are they? Maybe they.
That depends on what you believe. Oh, excuse me, ma'am. You get your own waiting room chair.
Well, that's plush compared to the actual rocket.
Looking good.
He kind of looks like Tom Hanks, doesn't he?
deja vu.
Are you sure?
Okay.
It's like right on the bus over here.
I don't think go to the bathroom. I think we went into the exit.
I don't think you want to know, Mom. I don't know. I don't think we went down here before. You want to go in there?
As soon as the Eagle reappears, things begin to go wrong. Radio communications break down. Messages to Eagle must be relayed through Mike Collins aboard the command module Columbia. Throughout the crucial final checks, contact with the Eagle keeps dropping out. And Flight Director Gene Kranz inches closer to aborting the mission. With the vital computer links temporarily holding, the moment of decision is now.
Okay, all flight controllers, go to those landing. Retro. Go. Final. Go. Guys, go. Roll. Go. Telcom. Go. INFJ. Go. Econ. Go. Surgeon. Go. Capcom. We're go for landing. Eagle, get secure. Go for landing. Over. I understand. Go for landing. 1, 0.
Hurtling toward the moon at 3,800 miles per hour, Neil Armstrong notices his checkpoints are all appearing too soon. This means a serious navigation error. At these speeds, 3 seconds long means missing the safe landing zone by 3 miles. Suddenly, the computer starts firing the maneuvering thrusters, jolting the ship back and forth. This has happened in simulations, but never this much, never this violent. The smooth descent is becoming a bumpy ride. Before that is fixed, a problem with the onboard computer. The astronauts have rehearsed for thousands of possible malfunctions, but not this one. It had been considered too unlikely. Seconds seem like hours as everyone struggles to remember the meaning of a 1202 program alarm. The deadline to safely abort is vanishing fast. 1202 means the Eagle's onboard computer is overloading. This means Houston is blind, unable to make navigation corrections or interpret the data coming from Eagle's computer. Armstrong and Aldrin are on their own. Mission Control decides they can go ahead, if the data link doesn't fail again. 1,000 feet, and Neil Armstrong can see that the computer is proposing to put them down in a dangerous place. That landing site is full of boulders. If they land there, they will never take off again. At 350 feet, Armstrong ignores his computer navigation and veers away from the rocky landing site with no time to explain to Mission Control.
Okay, I'll flight control everything tight.
In Mission Control, everybody is stunned. At 300 feet, the Eagle has left its flight plan and taken off at full speed across the face of the moon.
Eagle Houston, it's descent to fuel to monitor, over.
90 seconds of fuel remaining. Now less than 200 feet, and the Eagle is too low to safely abort back into orbit. They call this part of the flight plan Dead Man's Curve. All that's left for Mission Control is to read off the fuel remaining in seconds.
60 seconds.
The entire moon landing has come down to 2 men and 1 minute.
Forward. 20 feet down, 2.5. 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Lights on. Down 2.5. Forward. 30 feet, 2.5 down. Face down. 4 forward. 4 forward, just to the right. Down a half. Contact light. Okay, engine stop. Tranquility base here. The Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
A short time later, history is made again.
Good, here we can see you coming down the ladder now.
For one incredible moment, we are one people with one history, watching our destiny unfold.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It was a moment shared by an entire world.
Dear man from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the land, became indeed for all mankind.
With these first steps, mankind stood on the highest ground, and we saw our planet as our home port in the endless ocean of space.
There was something which was surprising to me. It had occurred as I was standing on the surface. Just after we had landed, I'd gone down, standing on the surface and looking at planet Earth for the first time. Seeing the beauty, seeing the finiteness of it, the limits of it, and realizing what a shame it was that people were confronting each other on that planet without realizing what it was doing to the planet. It was a very emotional moment for me. I actually shed a couple of tears. Something totally unexpected for an engineer and fighter pilot to be crying quietly up there on the moon.
Mankind had achieved a tenuous foothold in the heavens, and a new and exciting world lay waiting to be explored. The first mission had stayed for only 1 day, but over the next 3.5 years, 5 more Apollo missions visited the moon, and with each one, we stayed longer, roamed further, and discovered more.
I never thought when I was a kid building rockets, in high school, that we would go to the moon, before the end of the century. I mean, I thought that was something that was way in the future, fantasy.
I was rolling on the moon one day. That is the best example we got. Just don't stub your toe.
We've got to understand that as a people, we need to stretch. We need to reach beyond our grasp. We need to strive to do things that seem impossible, because in the accomplishment of them, We move society forward.
Boy, isn't the beauty of this place is just absolutely incredible.
One of the astronauts has said those hills that we climbed give our children and grandchildren a different perspective, that they see the mountains that we couldn't see. And so what we consider impossible, they're dreaming about.
3, 2, 1. What a ride, what a ride.
When I have a chance to talk to kids, I tell them, the first thing I tell them is to take the word impossible out of their vocabulary. Go to their teacher tomorrow morning and scratch it out in the dictionary. The word doesn't exist. If I can stand here and tell you that I lived on the moon, that I called the moon my home for 3 days, you tell me what is impossible in this day and age, much less in a generation that follows, much less into the 21st century. Nothing is impossible.
I like exploring things, inventing. I would like to go up there, find out what's really up there.
I would like to be an astronaut. I like to design rockets.
Payload specialist.
I'd be a ground controller. The thing that my mom can't understand is I'm terrified of heights, but I want to be an astronaut.
There's so many things I'd love to do. I would explore, I'd look for everything.
I would try to start a farm.
Millions of other galaxies that you might be able to live in.
It's the unknown. Anything's possible.
Maybe be able to cure certain diseases. On Mars and dance
Play basketball, but you can still be short. Because then you could like fly up in the air. Baseball fields. Hit the ball, you get a home run every time.
There are a lot of things that can benefit mankind that we, because of science, we simply cannot do on Earth.
It's such a big universe, and it's kind of strange to think that just this one tiny planet was chosen to have life on it.
I hear they're finding new planets or moons, and they're finding out more about how stars are working, and it makes me feel like it's trying to tell me something.
What's it trying to tell you?
That you belong up there with them.
The Apollo program ended in December of 1972, but our journey into space is just beginning. I'm Neil Armstrong. The future of space travel is being written right now in the dreams and imaginations of a new generation. Perhaps that's the greatest legacy of Apollo. It shows our children and grandchildren that courage, imagination, and will to explore, no dream is impossible.
Give it up, Judy. It's not my forte.
Ja, men till Lunar så
Okay.
get back on the bus.
What's that? What's
Use Lunar.
Okay, so we got back on the bus and came back to the main part of the facility, and now we're going into this building, which I think is the Space Shuttle building. Each one of these buildings talks about a different program that NASA did. So we're going to go see the Space Shuttle.
We need a better safety margin. The crew can tolerate a short-term increase, but...
Engineering? Morning, Betty. What, right now? Building 36?
I didn't even know there was a building 36. Must be important. Everyone's here. We got propulsion, aerothermal, flight dynamics.
Anyone know why we're here?
For this.
Good morning. We're going to create America's next spacecraft. It's going to launch like a rocket and land like an airplane, and it's going to be reusable.
You can't do that with a rocket.
It's not a rocket. It's a shuttle.
Now it's time to go to the next step. Sketch pad to launch pad. Going to the moon was a camping trip. Now our job is to work and live in space. This vehicle has to do something that we have never done before. Perform 4 key tasks and be able to do them over and over again. There is nothing easy about putting a ship back up into space, let alone a whole fleet of ships. But first, let's talk about the launch. We have never designed engines and vehicles that can be reused. But we will, and once we're in orbit, we go to work. We want to take all kinds of cargo up there in addition to the people. Science labs, satellites, even the space station. And when all the work is done, we gotta bring everybody back home. All right now, the country's waiting. Let's build ourselves a space shuttle.
big, it's too heavy, or we're launching one spaceship on the back of an even bigger one.
What if we split the booster into its pieces? Rockets, fuel tank.
It's supposed to be reusable. How do we get all those parts home?
What if we just throw the fuel tank away? We're running all new processes, procedures, manuals. We've never reused a ship before.
We're also going to have to build some really big garages.
Sir, what if she lands somewhere other than Florida? How does she get back here? It's a glider.
Buy her a plane ticket home.
Ablative heat shields are heavy, and they burn up on re-entry. We need a more reusable solution. Silica foam tiles, thousands of them, fitted together in one lightweight, reusable heat shield.
Another holdup with the engines? Tell me some good news with the tiles.
The heat shield bond keeps failing. The tiles keep falling off.
So another delay. How long? How long?
1.5 to 2 years.
Well, this is going to be fun to tell my boss. Everybody get back to work.
How do you feel?
I'll let you know. When they come home.
The President's message said, "You go forward this morning on a daring enterprise, and you carry the hopes and prayers of all Americans with you." And astronaut John Young, the commander of the mission, replied, "That's a right fine speech. We sure appreciate it."
This launch of Columbia marks NASA's first manned test flight ever flown into space with people on board.
Coming up on the 5-minute point. Mark, T-minus 5 minutes and counting.
After Friday's failed launch attempt, it does appear that the shuttle will take off as scheduled today.
This is a start sequence. The final three planes taking off from Mexico. All morning, NASA's spokesman Hugh Harris says everything's going smoothly. Certainly those involved here today hope that continues.
Another movie.
I think so. So that was all that we saw at the Space Center. We had a great time, and it was a really beautiful day to be there, to be honest. Going in February is a great time of the year. We had amazing weather. So after that, we wanted to go check out the beach. So we went down to Cocoa Beach and walked along the beach for a while. Yeah, it's cold. It's more than a little bit cold. That feels like Massachusetts water. That does not feel like Florida water. Way too early the next morning, it was time to go home. This was the rental car that we had for the week, and it's a nice car. I'm not gonna lie, we had a lot of good times in this car. I feel like we spent way too much time in this car for the 4 or 5 days that we were here. But we had a good time, and now it's time to go home. Mickey wouldn't fit in my bags. I brought 2 bags and he wouldn't fit in either one of them. This is actually the 3rd bag, so I guess I had 3. So anyway, he's just chilling here by my feet for the whole ride home. Hopefully he makes it okay. He seems to be fine so far. If you've been enjoying my vlogs, I'd love for you to check out my YouTube membership. As a member, you'll get early access to my videos before anyone else and exclusive members-only videos that I've created just for you. It's a fun way to support the channel and connect on a deeper level. Click join to learn more. I can't wait to see you there.